Hi, welcome to Bay Area Focus. I'm Susan Sikora. Any talk about economy, recovery, and jobs in the Bay Area must include a temperature check on the high-tech industry. Is it thriving? Is another bubble brewing? And is there a job for you? For an informed update, we welcome David Spark. He's covered high-tech for 18 years, and you may have seen his work in eWeek, Wired News, PC World, ABC Radio, and Tech TV. He's also the founder of Spark Media Solutions, a media production and consulting company. David Spark, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thanks a lot.
All right, let's start right now. What's your take on the high-tech business if you had to do a one-liner in the Bay Area right this second?
The Bay Area is the place to be. It's where everyone wants to be. It's where all the investment's happening and where the highest paid tech jobs in the country is right here.
Okay, I feel as if we're kind of repeating history here. Are we on the verge of another bubble? Is another bubble happening?
Yes and no, I will answer to that. So when we had the dot-com boom back in the 90s, the reason everyone was excited is that all of a sudden you could create a business online, and it took very little capital to do that. Mm-hmm. The big differences back there is almost none of them were actually generating revenue. It was just sort of gathering audience. We're seeing a lot of that happening again, but the big difference is there's a lot that are actually generating revenue today. And what's even more unusual today is the fact that back then you could do it with little capital expenditure, meaning like physically buying hardware. Now you can do it with zero capital expenditure. So you can start a business with very, very little money.
Okay, but can you make a living?
Well, that's the big thing is, yes, of course you can make a living if you create something that everybody wants to use and you can charge them for that, like any business, if you will. But one entrepreneur that I spoke to that said, if you really want to start a startup and be good at it, you have to be able to go to, and get ready for this, an entire year with very little to no money to get this thing up the ground.
Okay, so
yes.
that narrows the universe of players quite a bit.
It does a lot.
Right.
It does
so
a lot.
What if somebody's watching this morning and saying, I got this great idea, I know it's going to sell. Before you even do that, back up a step. How do they know? Do they do the traditional marketing ways, or are they Twittering and texting? How do you find out? How do you do your research to find out if something's going to sell? It's not going to be the next Facebook.
Well,
maybe
no. But yes, the traditional way is you have to do your research. So you have to see, start Googling that idea that you have and to see if anyone's actually done it before you. Let's begin with that. See if something like that exists. Also see how one would solve that problem currently. How many hoops would I have to go through to solve this problem which you're hoping to solve with your new idea or application?
Back up one second. You said you'd Google to see how many. So if I get 4 million, then I figure 4 million and one probably is not going to make me a huge amount of money?
Well, if there's a lot of people already doing it, and they're doing it well, that's a key thing, and they're doing it well, then yeah, maybe not. But there could be a lot of people doing it and not doing well. Perfect example of this is the success of Instagram. Before Instagram launched, there were many photo sharing apps out there, tons and tons of them, but they weren't doing it as well as Instagram did it. So that's an unusual thing. They got into an incredibly crowded space, but did it better than everybody else.
All right, suppose you Google the idea and nothing comes up.
Then A, you're in good shape, but B, you have to look, how are people solving that problem today? And I would start talking to people, like I would, pick up the phone and interview people who need this,
so you'd
problem
actually,
solved.
wait, go back. So you pick up a phone and you'd actually talk to somebody as opposed to just trying to do research online for at least the second or third steps along the way.
Yeah, well, online is just one communications medium, where there's a lot of different ways we can communicate with people. And pick up the phone, call your friends. If you're doing it for something in an industry you know well, then you probably know people in the industry that will want to buy your product.
Okay, so you had this idea, and let's say you get through a few of those hoops there,
Correct.
And you say it's a go. But now let's get to the part where I have to go a year or so with little or no money. So my question is, how am I going to live? Should I move back with my parents? Should I move in with friends? Or can I get somebody to write me a big check and stake me if I've got all my ducks in a row and I say, look, this is the next big thing?
Right. So this is where investment comes in. And at the very lowest level, they refer to it as friends and family or seed investment. And what you do is you just get just enough money to create the idea. Or one of the terms they use is called minimal viable product, or MVP. And once you show that, then you say, oh my God, we have a product, and then you can see how it would work, and you get what is known as beta testers or early users to try it out. And yeah, I mean, that can sometimes cost very little. I mean, you know, there are organizations that what they call seed investors that spend as little as $10,000, maybe up to $80,000 just to find out if you can make that product fly.
Okay, so let's say you get the money. Let's say you only have half the money with your friends and family. Then how do you find the good investor who's going to really make up the difference with maybe one check? So you don't have to spend your time and spin your wheels looking for people with $1.98, and you could get to the actual meat of the matter of getting this thing flying.
Right. Well, then you go after seed investors, or you try to join what is known as an incubator or an accelerator. It's kind of a synonymous. The two most famous ones out here is one called Y Combinator and another one called 500 Startups, and they're both based in Mountain View. And the idea is you start a company with they give you a small investment and a place to work, but you're around a lot of other people that are working on their passionate product. And not only do you get the space to work, but you get access to a lot of advisors and professional services and just basic, you know, office space too, and the the conference rooms, things
and
you would need like that.
And what do I have to do to get them to say yes to me and no to the next person?
Well, you have to have the idea. You know, they know the industries well, but you have to present your idea saying, look, there's a market for this. Nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is doing it well. This is how much money that can be made for it. This is how we would create the product. I mean, you have to answer all these questions presented to them, and if they think it's good enough, and they go, all right, here's some money. And as a result, they get a little piece of your company.
Okay. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to ask David what you do about some of these ideas to even get them really launched and going, and what you can expect. And also, what if you don't have an idea and you don't want to start something, you just want to get a job? We'll find out if you could get hired when we return. We're back with media consultant David Spark. All right, we've been talking about if you wanted to start your own business, your lips to God's ears, it should only be the next Facebook. But let's say you get it going and you can suffer through that first year where things are going to be tough, but you've got a roof over your head and you've got your 3 squares a day and all of that. So you get it going. How much can you expect to make when it really launches?
Oh, any product. Here's the odd thing. There's 2 models that I've seen in terms of startups. One is actually create a product that you charge revenue for, or you get advertising dollars for, and you make money off that. There's the other sort of sad realization of you don't actually charge any money for anything. You just gather a lot of users, and you realize, it's like gathering a lot of viewers for a television program.
Right.
Then it becomes valuable just through that alone.
So you could say these hits are like the eyeballs you bring to the space, and therefore when the eyeballs are there, they'll see your ad for whatever it is you're selling, and you're my sponsor.
Right. Well, that's if you're doing advertising. But one of the sort of the quote exit strategies that happens is you just build audience, and you go, look, we have 1 million users, so therefore we're this valuable, and companies get sold that are generating 0 revenue. And just because of eyeballs.
Because the guys that want to buy it know that that's
all of a sudden I'm going to
dollars,
get,
right?
Yeah, because then I can sell to those
We're
1 million
not a
people
charity.
that they have.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Suppose, for instance, you don't want to start something of your own. Your great idea is not that great. Maybe it's a hobby on the side. What you really want is a job. Maybe you've been out for a while, and the people who maybe come out of college with these computer science degrees. Let's talk about them first. The ones who maybe are about to graduate. Can they expect work right away in Silicon Valley?
Yes, Silicon Valley demand is sky high
As
right
what?
now. Okay, so demand is really high. I mean, there's thousands of job openings right now, but in terms of salary, the Silicon Valley, Bay Area Silicon Valley, is about a 20% premium over the national average. The national average is about 85,000. This is just average tech worker, and then you look about 20% over that. We're a little over $100,000. And now, if you're a developer, if you want to learn development, add another 10% to that as well.
Okay. Of course, they have to pay rent when they move here.
Yes, and then that becomes a problem.
The profits up right away. All right. So you want to get into this, and let's say, for instance, you've done something totally different your whole life. Maybe you're not the young person with the computer science degree. Maybe you're 40 or 50 something, and you've been let go because of whatever reason, and you've got to get work. Can you get it in Silicon Valley?
Yes, and here's my major advice for that. you don't need to drop all your knowledge and then all of a sudden go into tech. What is an incredibly valuable skill to have now is your business knowledge combined with tech. Because for so long, the industry, and this maybe 3-4 years this has been going on, they've been talking to tech employees saying, you need to know the business. If you want to be really good in tech, you also need to know the business you're in. Well, the same works the other way around. If you know the business, you don't have to just be beholden to your tech employees to just tell you, we can do this and we can't do that. Rather, if you learn tech and be able to answer those questions on your own, you're incredibly valuable. So I would say to those who have lost work, very much keep the knowledge you have, because nobody young is going to be able to capture all your experience,
right.
But start to learn the tech side of that.
Okay, we hear this all the time. Go back and sharpen up your skills. Is this going to be one course at a community college? Is it a couple of workshops? Or do you go back to school? Or do you just learn under somebody who maybe in your family is really good at this stuff?
Well, you could do that. I think a much better way is there's tons and tons of services online that can teach you on your own time to do this. I mean, this is kind of the amazing thing. You don't need any kind of formal education. So services that I like, one called Team Treehouse.
Team Treehouse, T-E-A-M.
Treehouse.com.
And is it all one word?
Yes.
Okay.
And then lynda.com, spelled with a Y, Lynda.com are two great services. There's another service called Udemy, U-D-E-M-Y, another one called Code Academy if you want to learn development. All of these services, you can learn different aspects of technology if you want to.
Do they want money up front online?
Yes, but again, actually, Udemy, I believe, is free, but all the others, it's really nominal fee.
All right, spell
Definitely
the Udemy
cheap.
one again.
U-D-E-M-Y.
Okay.
But again, that covers everything. It's all kinds of education. And then there's also education on, iTunes has a university and all that stuff is free. I mean, there's so much education out there if you're willing to put in the time and learn, like anything.
Networking, let's talk about that a little bit, because that used to be the traditional way to get a job. You go to these events, it's a lot of cheese and crackers and business cards or what have you, or maybe it's something different now.
And not everybody remembers their business card, which I think is the number one problem with networking.
Should we have a business card still?
Yes, still have a business card.
It's not enough to say, here's my phone kissing your phone or whatever they do, right? That's not going to do it?
Some people have that, I have, a smartphone too, and I don't have that app on my phone. I still collect business cards. I still hand them out.
Because when you go home, you have to empty your pockets and you see it there and it reminds you,
right? I enter the information in and I throw it away, though.
All right, so I give you a card, you go home, and the question is, what did I do around giving you that card? Backing up again, what are the good networking skills? Are they the same as they've always been?
Yes, the same that they've always been. The good thing about all these networking events is people are there to truly network, and so don't go and just talk to the people that you know there. Although you may go to an event and you'd be maybe scared because I don't know anyone here. Really, really good trick is call the event beforehand. If you're going to something where you know nobody, call the event beforehand and say, hey, who's the organizer of this event? I'm interested in learning more about this. And if I go and I know Susan is the organizer of this event, then I can ask for your name at the door, which is a good thing to do if you're kind of scared around big crowds. And then just say, hey, I'm looking to meet people in XYZ. Well, Susan will know everybody here, and she'll make sure you meet all the key people there.
That's the way to go in and do it.
I mean, it's a good networking technique to make sure you use your hour or two there wisely.
Do you take a resume with you?
No, don't take your resume with you.
Leave the resume home.
Bring your business cards.
When they ask you for the resume, you have to give it by email or in paper, or I mean, do people still work with paper resumes?
They do. I must say that paper resumes I don't think have the same impact that they used to have. Definitely beef up your LinkedIn account. If you're going to do one thing in social media, make sure that your LinkedIn account is beefed up, because it is probably the one thing that appears, if you don't already have like a website or something else, one thing that appears topmost when people search your name online.
Okay.
And they use that as a resume.
And last question, in terms of social media, if you're out there and you're Twittering or you're on YouTube or whatever, if you're on all the stuff, how do you make your message shine, stand out?
Do it a lot. Do it frequently, and don't just promote yourself. Engage with others as well, and offer them things that they would want, not just pitch yourself. If you just pitch yourself, then no one's going to listen.
Is that your PR 180?
The PR 180 concept is, it's kind of the way media works. The way you kind of build an audience is by interviewing people and getting a lot of information that way. And so we kind of do the same thing for companies, is that we will not publicize the company itself, but will publicize everybody around them, and then publish that content, so interviews, articles, photos, whatnot, on their blog, on their site, and then others will see it, and it becomes a huge, huge boon for them, sort of raising their sort of stature in the industry, no differently than a magazine or a television show would through its interviews and creating content.
Sounds like a little mitzvah-ish almost.
Well, it comes back to them.
Okay, well, karma lives. That's all. Okay, David Spark, thank you. It's been fun having you here. I hope you come again. All right, and if you want more information about David and what he does, it's sparkmediasolutions.com. That's sparkmediasolutions.com. Stay with us. Tommy Igoe's next. Thank you, David.
Thank you.